evening, everybody. Welcome to Unpacking the Samro MOI. So today we are covering chapter, I think it's chapter 5, amendments to the MOI. And this is quite a key one because at the SGM or the EGM, coming up this week, Thursday, one of the items that are up for discussion is the Samro, the MOI. So the amending of the MOI. So we are definitely going to be discussing that. So I've put up for presentation, as you can see, amendments to Samro MOI. And what according to our MOI, how do we amend our own MOI? And we're going to be going into detail. I just want to make sure from a tech perspective that you can see what we're doing. Perfect. Right. Amendments to the MOI. Now, there's namely 3 ways the MOI can be amended. Okay? So the MOI can be amended by the board. When the board is amending the MOI, the only amendments that the board can make to the MOI are administrative changes. When we're talking about administrative changes, we are talking about spelling mistakes, grammar, references, punctuation. And they use this Latin word, adjustem generis. This is a very important word in the MOI in terms of what the board can do. Because what this Latin word says is that they can only fix things that are like that. It means you can fix spelling, grammar, references, punctuation, and anything like that. So the board cannot say we were fixing something and say that it was, maybe they're saying they're updating language, and then it changes the very substance of the clause in the MOI. No, the board cannot make changes that are like that to the MOI. It's only administration, secretarial. You can understand when you have a secretary in a meeting, somebody who's taking notes, and then they do the minutes, and then they make sure the minutes are okay. They're checking the spelling. But you have to come to the meeting, and then as a meeting, you must say, we are happy with the minutes and how you've recorded the meeting. And then, but they can't change what we discussed. And so that's what is adjustem generis, that Latin word. Ingani lahli, ingani juleli phezulu, guys. We must not allow that to happen. This is what the board can do. The other thing that the board can do is propose amendments. Remember, the board is a group of people that we have nominated to serve, and they're the ones that have well, excuse me, guys. I have got such bad allergies today. But what the board, you've put them there for, is to run, they basically are making sure that the organization runs as the members want it to run. They don't have to run the organization. No. That's for the executive team. That's for the CEO or the general managers. The board is there to make sure that what the members said Samro must do, that Samro is doing what the members said. So they're playing an oversight role. Now, because they're playing this oversight role, they are the first to see if our MOI is actually resulting in an outcome that we don't intend as members. Because board members know that when we say in our MOI, we want to build a swimming pool, for example. We know, Tina, we want to swim in the swimming pool. But if in the organization they've built a swimming pool and they've made it a very big cooler bag, that's not what we want. So they'll see it inside the organization, which, when the members said this in the MOI, they didn't want this to happen. Yes, you've done what they've said, but this is not what they wanted. We might need to amend our MOI so that it makes sure that the executive does what the membership wants to be done. Now, that's when the board comes to us as members and they say, we propose an amendment. And often at our AGM, they propose amendments to the Samro MOI. Right. So that's the board of directors. Then there's another way that the MOI can be amended through the High Court. Now, let's say we pick up something in our MOI, or members pick something up in the MOI. They say, this is a conflict in our MOI. This is a problem in our MOI. We don't need to consult the board. But it would be, I mean, you see, it's nice to consult the board. It's nice to use your own systems. You know, when you go and you step outside and you go to courts, things get messy. We've seen that happen in the news. But let's say there's something that is not being addressed and you need it to be addressed, and you know that if you take it to court, it's going to be addressed. The appropriate court that 10% of voting members, at least 10%, would have to go to the High Court and say, oh, it doesn't even have to be 10%, it can be one member, guys. But go to the High Court and you say, no, this is the problem with the MOI, and as a member, I want to take this to court because we need to fix it. It's not being fixed. Then the High Court will look at our MOI and make an analysis of the documentation that's provided, what the person is saying the MOI should read and what it reads as. Then the court of law will apply itself and do an adjudication and then make a court order. The court that we approach there is the High Court. It can also be appealed. Let's say the court finds in favor of that member. The Samro can still, as the members, we can still appeal that, but the High Court is the court that deals with that. All right. Then now there's another way that the MOI can be amended. 10% of voting members can propose an amendment. And let's say us as members, we know that there's 13,000 Samro members, so 10% would be 1,300 of us. And we say 1,300 of us have signed a petition, and we have agreed that we want to make this amendment to the MOI. We can bring that now to be voted on by all members. In order for the MOI to be amended, this is not like a normal amendment. In order for the MOI to be amended, 75% of voting members must vote in favor for an amendment to be passed. Now, I want us to bring our minds together. 75% of voting members does not mean 75% of 13,000 members. It does not mean 75% of all voting members. It means 75% of the members who are at the meeting. Let's say we are amending the MOI in a meeting. It's going to be 75% of the voting members in that meeting. So let's say there's 50% of us at the meeting, and we meet the quorum requirements for a meeting to sit as per our MOI. And 75% of the 50% vote in favor of the amendment. The amendment is passed. Even though when you look at the numbers of the whole organization, it's actually representing 35% of the members. Just because members are inactive, it does not render our work as members to be meaningless. If the meeting has reached a quorum and 75% of the people in the meeting vote in favor of an amendment, then the amendment is passed. So I hope I've been clear there. This is a very important caveat. When an amendment is passed, the amendment is filed with SARS and with CIPC. For obvious examples, let's say, look at our Samro MOI. Our MOI at the moment, it's trying to be compliant with PBO status, which, in my opinion, I think it's making Samro inefficient, in my opinion. So, if we were to vote for Samro to focus on collecting our money and distributing it effectively, and not the PBO status information, whereby we are now making sure that we have scholarships for any artist out there who's not even a musician. I mean, if you look at the MOI, our definitions even include ballet. Why are we defining ballet in our Samro MOI? It's because of that PBO status. Because when we have PBO status, we can't say we are going to have a scholarship and it's only for Samro members. No. PBO status means public benefit organization in that industry. And we are in the arts, which ballet falls under. So we would then file any changes to the MOI with SARS, because maybe we make changes to the MOI and we say we don't want to be PBO status anymore, and SARS must know. We also file that with CIPC, because CIPC is where the constitution, an MOI is a constitution of a company. It's like the constitution of the country. It governs everything. It's the number one document we go to for anything. So CIPC must know what are the rules of this Samro and how do they operate. Amendments, colleagues, they don't have to be done in person. They can be done by email. They can be done by mail. But if it's done in that way, all voting members must get the same documents. So I must get exactly what Tebogo got, exactly what Mbali got. Everybody must get the same document. And also, we must have a finite amount of time in which to read the documents and vote on the amendment. If you do not vote, it doesn't mean that the amendment won't be passed. It means that the people that voted are the people that are the voting members. If you didn't vote, it just means you are not a voting member on this particular topic. So just because an MOI amendment gets sent by mail, it doesn't make it less important. And we're going to now go into voting members, because I know when we're talking voting members, we have to remember that there are member rules at Samro. There are people who register for Samro. Somebody registered for Samro today. They will only be able to vote in the AGM in 2028. That's when they'll be a voting member, provided they met the requirements of becoming a voting member. Let's talk about what makes a voting member. Who are the voting members? Voting members for Samro are associate members. Associate members, what needs to happen for you to be an associate member? For you to be an associate member, all you have to have achieved is that you must have earned, if you are a composer, you must have earned 100 Rand. If you are a publisher, you must have earned 1,000 Rand within 3 years of joining. So we give you 3 years. And to be honest, colleagues, if you are producing works, even if you are like me, who got a statement from Samro, I think my amount there last time was 278. There's many distributions in a year from Samro. If in the year there's 6 distributions, and I'm making 3 Rand, 5 Rand, 8 Rand, 3 Rand, 5 Rand, 8 Rand, 10 Rand, 11 Rand, 12 Rand sometimes, by the time the year 3 passes, I must have reached that 100 Rand. Yeah, but it's not excluding members. If you are producing music and you are releasing, you will definitely make 100 Rand within 3 years as a composer. As a publisher, you need to have made 1,000 Rand, and that is really because publishers usually represent a number of composers. So as a publisher, you should have enough composers to make 1,000 Rand within 3 years of joining. A voting member. When you're a voting member, you get a vote for every Rand you've earned. So the amount of money you've made, it can tell us how strong is your vote. But your vote can never be stronger than 2% of total votes, no matter how much money you make. Your vote can never be worth more than 2%. And this is when you pay attention, because a composer can make 2% of total votes and a publisher 2% of total votes. That's what it says, 2%. It doesn't say there's a different percentage for publisher or a different percentage for composer. This means that no one vote is stronger than 2%. What does that mean? We've had this discussion before where we say some publishers have a bigger say. No, when you are registered as a publisher, we are not concerned with how many artists you have registered, how many artists you are representing, because every publisher has the same threshold of 1,000 Rand. Whether you are big time recording publisher, big time publisher, or emerging publisher, the threshold is the same. Therefore, no matter the publisher, no matter the composer, the maximum percentage that your vote carries is 2%. This means that when we are voting, colleagues, market share, market share. Even if you say, but I brought in 30% of Samro's whole income, you don't get a bigger vote. And this for me was something that I hadn't thought about and I had not reflected upon. And I like to think about things on the other side. So what if this thing was not being applied correctly in the past? I don't know whether it was or it wasn't. Maybe one big publisher who is earning 15% or 20% of the money that comes into Samro, then they say they want to leave. Members, that's when we organize. We are going to competition commission. You can't leave Samro because we are now implementing the rules because we understand them. You can't leave Samro now. It's not the time to leave and you go to competition commission. That would be a competition commission matter. Just because I thought about it and then I thought, no, but there's things in our system of democracy. So then let's move over to full members. What's a full member? Because this full member thing, hey, it can be very problematic. Because I always ask you, who becomes a full member, man? Because the board decides who's full member. And it's been very shrouded in mystery. And the thing is, when something is shrouded in mystery, it has the tendency to create suspicion. Guys, there's no need to be suspicious here. There's only a need for us to be more active in our requirements of accountability. To become a full member, you are promoted via a point system. And the point system combines compositional and publishing contributions. This doesn't mean that if you are only a composer, you can't be a full member. It doesn't mean that if you're only a publisher, you can't be a full member. All that it means is that if you are a publisher and a composer, you will be gathering points on both sides. But if you're a composer, you'll be just gathering points in your composer. If you're just a publisher, you'll be gathering points in your publishing, but you will not be excluded because there's a number of points that you must reach, and it's a threshold. And once you reach that threshold, you become a full member. Now, what we should be doing as members, in my view, is that at AGM, we should be getting a report on who has achieved the threshold, who are the new full members, and we should be clapping for all the new full members. And at that point, they should be giving us an explanation of what's the compositional contribution, the publishing contribution, how is it being calculated? Because remember, it shouldn't make a difference whether you're a composer or a publisher or both. You should be able to run in the same race. And it doesn't mean that just because you're a composer and you're a publisher, both in one, that you have got more fit legs to run the race than just a composer or just a publisher. So we might want to just get a refresh from the board. Remember, this is how we do our point system. And this is how we do the calculation. And these are the people that are graduating to full member status. This is something we should be celebrating, colleagues. It's something that should be in the annual report, congratulating the new full members. These are now the people that qualify to sit on the board. So if you look at what a positional contribution or publishing contribution, how are these things calculated? If you produce works constantly, you are raising your compositional contributions. If your works are being used across radio, TV, and film, you are earning in your compositional contribution and your publishing contribution. You are making a contribution. If you are notifying consistently, every year you are notifying 10, 15, 20, 30 songs, you are notifying new works. They can see you, and you are notifying correctly. They can see you. Basically, a full member is somebody who's active, somebody who's producing new works. You don't have to be famous to be a full member. No, it just means that you are active. Just because artist A was a mega superstar, trending on TikTok, trending on Twitter, trending on Facebook. No, just because somebody's popular doesn't mean they are a full member. To be a full member, it's based on your level of activity, your level of focus, your level of participation. Now, somebody might be asking, because I asked myself this question, I like to bring these questions that I ask myself, how is it that I can lose my membership status? Because we know we are coming from, many of us have served in political structures. And then one day, when you are opposed to something and people don't like you anymore, and you're not a member anymore, there's a disciplinary committee, ethics committee that sits and hey, 1, 2, you lose your membership status. At Samro doesn't say how you can lose your membership status. Like, there's nothing that says if you do this, you can lose your membership status. If you do that, you can lose your membership status. No. The only way that you can lose your membership status, let me put it like this. There isn't a rule that says if you don't earn for 10 years, you are no longer a member of Samro. There's nothing like that. If you earned in 1982, and that was the last earning that you made, and you sadly pass away in 2027, you are going to get the benefit, the funeral benefit. You're going to get it. Understand? There's nothing that says you're going to lose your membership because you were not earning. No, it's not there. I looked. However, you can lose your member status if you do not follow the Samro member code of conduct. And colleagues, you must remember that when you join something, we all join as members. Remember when we joined, many of us, Samro existed. We decided to join this party or this organization. When you join an organization, when you join a stokvel, you don't arrive and then you start telling everybody in the stokvel, actually this stokvel is going to go like this, like that, like this. No. Before you even join the stokvel will tell you, Tina siyaholisana, or le stokvel lesa sekroza, or this is an investment stokvel. So the stokvel, it's got its own MOI already. Tina, we are a stokvel for grocery. Every month, everybody contributes 1.5, and then in December, we distribute. We might have rules. Everybody pays on the 15th. There's 3 days leeway for you to pay. Then after that, there's interest added. If you don't pay for 2 months in a row, we remove you from the stokvel. There was MOI that says, what are we? And then there's the rules of this stokvel. How do we do what we are? So Samro has a code of conduct. We joined this particular stokvel, if we're going to call it a stokvel. We joined this particular organization. We found it with rules. And if we want to change the rules, we can change them. But we've got to follow the rules in order to change the rules, if that makes sense. So you can lose your member status if you break the Samro Code of Conduct. What does the Samro Code of Conduct say? Okay, the Member Code of Conduct says, all members of Samro are expected to notify and register their works. We are all, as members, we have a responsibility to notify and register our works. Also, as members, we have a responsibility to make sure that our information is correct when we notify and register works. And we also, when we see that there's a mistake, we must notify that, hey, there's a mistake here, and correct that mistake. Our operations with Samro must be in good faith. What does good faith mean? It means that if I released a song and my song is banging, my song is called Ngwe. Ngwe is a very common name for a song. It's a very common name for a song. Somehow, somewhere, there's a mistake that was made. And you see that, Yazi, on my statement, I'm not seeing my song, and it was playing on Ukhozi FM. For sure, I'm supposed to be earning money. As members, our member code of conduct says we act in good faith. So we don't go to City Press, Samro stole my money. No, we go to Samro House. We say, my song was on SABC, was on Ukhozi FM. Ukhozi, I'm on the playlist at Ukhozi. Now, if anybody knows, when you're on the playlist on Ukhozi FM, your monies are definitely more than 1,000 rand. Your monies are even passing 5,000, 10,000, 20, Ukhozi FM, Ukhobo Wenene, Lisedi FM. Those are the stations where you are earning money. If you are trending on all the radio stations, there's a big amount of money you are supposed to be getting. And if you don't see it, it's, as a member, what this says, our code of conduct, is that we act in good faith. We go say, go. Wait a second. I can't find this other money of mine. We go talk nicely. We go try and resolve things. We utilize the policies. There's policies at Samro. There's a conflicts policy. When somebody's claiming your song, you're also claiming the same song. They've got a method of managing that. We must know these things. Why? Because when they produce the financial annual report, these are the KPIs we're supposed to be looking for. We're supposed to be looking for, there was conflicts. There was 20 conflicts this year. How many were resolved and how quickly were they resolved? Because as members, you want to say, when I say Ngwe is my song, someone must not pay out. Step one, the money must freeze. So that nobody is busy going out while I'm busy phoning the call center. No, the minute I say, hey, that's my song, and I'm not getting paid for it, Samro freezes. Then they call a meeting. But now, when we call in the meeting, Samro must be strict. We call a meeting. The meeting is on the 14th of June. Everybody said they're available. I show up because I want my money. The other guys don't show up because they want to keep the money that they're trying to steal from me. They don't come to the meeting. What's the policy saying about that? If people don't come to the meeting 1, 2, 3 times, what's the outcome? We can't be always meeting to meet. As the members, these are the KPIs we're supposed to be looking at. But going back to the code of conduct, we are supposed to be acting in good faith. As a member, we're supposed to be notifying changes in works. Sometimes there's changes, Sometimes, we are all in studio, everything's going well. Then Jiggy, the producer, goes and registers the song at Samro, 100% his. Then we no, but fam, it's not 100% yours. Then there's changes in the notification. We must announce, hey, this change has been made. And we must make Samro aware, and we must make the changes. or we must tell Samro to make the changes. Your bank account changes. You have to tell Samro, my bank account changed. You can't just think that they are going to telepathically know, guys, that you don't bank with Standard Bank anymore. You are now with Capitec. These are the things that stand in the way of earning our monies. Because if there's money that's being paid out to you and the bank is sending it back to Samro, and you are not telling Samro that my bank account is Capitec, it's those gray areas. We don't want any gray areas because it's in the gray areas where the criminality lives, in the shadows. So we don't want your money to be found to be in the shadows. When you're working with Samro, the code of conduct says we must have a spirit of collaboration. It says it in the member, the code of conduct. Must have a spirit of collaboration. It says we must want positive outcomes. That's a different way, of dealing with people. It's a different way. The code of conduct is saying, let us move from a place of positivity. Let's move from a place of expecting the best. Let's move from a place of assuming everybody is honest. This is the member code of conduct. That's what it's saying. Let's assume the best of the people that are doing this work. Then it says, we also mustn't, in our way of dealing with Samro, we mustn't scare the employees. We mustn't create an environment where the employees are scared or they don't want to work. It says it in the member code of conduct. Colleagues, I'm raising these matters because we've been watching what's been happening and the allegations that have been made. Now, a person might make an allegation, and to us it might just sound like, court. But actually, it may be the foundation of putting you in violation of the member code of conduct. You can't be unreasonable. Our member code of conduct says you can't be unreasonable in your demands. You can't say we demand something that is completely unattainable. So you've spent R1 million, you and your husband, you and your partner are in love, you spent R1 million on a wedding. It is unreasonable to expect the sun to shine because you spent money. I'm making that example because sometimes the way we talk, we just believe because we are members, it must happen. And I said, this is why the member code of conduct is there, to say we can't be unreasonable in our dealings, in demands, in expectations. Let's be realistic. We're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with people. It says that you can't put Samro in disrepute in the public. It says you can't just go to the media and then affect the name of Samro and impact earning rights of other members. Because when Samro is in disrepute in the media, just remember, Samro is collecting from music users. You all know music users don't want to pay for the use of our music. We are well aware of that. Music users do not want to pay for the use of our music. Samro goes to, let's say, the Gauteng Liquor Board and says, we would like you and the Gauteng Liquor Board to enforce that any tavern that does not have a venue license cannot be issued with a liquor license, because where there is liquor, where there is a tavern, there's music. They are using our music. We don't have to ask questions about whether the music is being used or not. The Gauteng Liquor Board, for them it's paperwork, extra paperwork. They don't want the paperwork. But we go to the minister, we lobby, because that's how we have big organizations, because we're a lobby group, guys. We're a lobby group. We're lobbying for our rights. The board goes to the minister, the board goes to the presidency. Yes, they make sure that politics is correct because the law is on our side. That's why then they go and fight the copyright amendment bill. Now they are going to the point of enforcement. the Gauteng Liquor Board doesn't have a choice. They have to implement, not just Gauteng Liquor Board, all the liquor boards in all the provinces. It's implementation time. Now, taverns are applying for their liquor license, and they don't have this Samro license, venue license. And now they are being stopped from getting the liquor license. Those venues are angry. Now, if it comes out in the newspaper that Samro doesn't pay artists, all those efforts are defeated. So, excuse me. As much as we might have our suspicions, what so-and-so doing, and the mistrust and all of that, you have to remember that when we put Samro in disrepute, we are cutting our face to spite our nose, cutting your nose to spite your face. We are also in the code of conduct. It says we're not allowed as members to register works, to do fake registrations, whereby you say these are your works. You go to Undoc, you look at the Undocs that have not been claimed, and you say that's my music. You are now breaking the member code of conduct, which is why we are saying anybody who was found to have lied, there's several. The board is saying those people must pay back the money. Yes, that's a legal matter. It's a criminal matter. You stole, pay back the money. But, and if you don't, you might. We are only helping to avoid a criminal matter. But in the matter of whether you remain a member of Samro, that is the kind of thing where we can say, and you have now lost your membership to Samro because you lied. You knowingly registered works as if they were yours and they were not yours. So, in general, that's what the member code of conduct is saying. Now, if you break the code of conduct, this is an important detail. What happens is that it goes to a board committee known as the ethics committee. I'm not sure at Samro if it's a social and ethics committee or if it's just the ethics committee. In different boards, it's different committees. I did not check which board committees Samro has. But the ethics committee will sit. And just like in any process in South Africa, you're given an opportunity to present your case, and then they have their evidence as the ethics committee. Then the ethics committee makes a recommendation to the board. The ethics committee can recommend and say, we recommend the cancelling of this person's membership. The board says they look at all the evidence. Hi, this person went, they registered works that were not theirs, and they did that on purpose. We can prove it. We know there was an audit. There was an audit report that found that they did this. A criminal case has been opened with the police in addition to that because they actually committed fraud, and the board decides to terminate your membership. No member is required there. So there are those of us who sometimes we think that by creating chaos that we can help each other. This is why we have organization, and this is why we create this ecosystem of accepted rules and codes of conduct, because we want to make sure that all bad players are taken out of the system. And in that process, there's no consultation with members. Oh, we want to take out this person. Then there's people organize and they mobilize themselves and to organize and say, no, that mustn't happen. That's not something that's a done thing. To date, I've never heard of Samro terminating anyone's membership. I think Samro has found itself, like many organizations in a developing country, that for the first 30 years, we have all been developing. Every year, there's new people entering this industry who don't know anything about the industry. And every year we're just getting better and better about communicating and sharing information. And eventually we will get to a point of how a developed country would work, or how you see developed organizations. For instance, if you look at listed companies on the JSE, if you look at organizations that are operating, and you see those organizations and you say they just move differently, it's because they've mastered the art of communicating their information to their members. Remember, organizations are also very different. The rate in which a union can educate its membership to the rate in which an association, an accounting association can educate their members. For example, to join Samro, you just have to be a singer. You just have to be a composer or a publisher. You have to be in the entertainment industry. There is no baseline of education that is required for you to enter this industry. But if you join SAICA, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, you have to have graduated as an accountant. So I hope you're hearing what I'm saying, that we as members are now understanding that we need to share information with each other in languages that we understand with each other, so that people can be on the same page, because we are all equally intelligent. Just because I'm intelligent as an accountant doesn't mean I'm better than a person who's intelligent in art. It's different kinds of intelligence, different sides of the brain that are working. So we in the arts, we just have a bigger task, because most information and how it's packaged, CIPC is working with a lot of professional businesses. So the context within which we find the MOI is a context within which that requires a certain level of education. But our operations and our sector doesn't actually require that. But in order for us to operate under CIPC, under SARS, we have to be at a particular level. And we all do get that level. For many of us, we apply, we do our SARS tax returns. Many artists do that because SARS has the same responsibility to make sure that they can communicate to everybody. There's things that we all do on a day-to-day basis. And Department of Home Affairs, they have to make sure that their communications are infographics. You see, Department of Home Affairs, they use a lot of infographics because we can read images. So I just wanted to say that part so that we can be on the same page. So colleagues, that is the amendments to Samro MOI. I hope that I've been clear in my explanation and that you have a better understanding of this chapter of the Samro MOI. Next week, we'll be going back to our same slot, back to 10 a.m. next week, Tuesday. And next week, Tuesday, we will be covering the next chapter of the Samro MOI. And that chapter that we'll be looking at, just give me a second so I can tell you exactly the chapter that we'll be looking at next week. But it's the chapter after the Samro amending the MOI. My apologies, but I hope that everybody's been covered. While I look for that, the next thing we'll be looking at is governance rules. So, governance rules are really the rules that apply to the board and how it is that they govern over the organization. All right, colleagues, does anybody have questions that they'd like to ask? Or are we all good? I see that you are all good. Thank you very much. Remember, every single Tuesday today, and we are here on the Moya podcast, and also streaming today on my Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, as well as Nzigi's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next week, Tuesday.